Hey everyone, it is Sean here and welcome to another brush seller video. Today we're going to talk about exactly what you see in front of you right there. We're going to talk about some Schilke mouthpieces. Now, obviously Schilke mouthpieces pretty well known, pretty well used and widely revered by many. But what you perhaps don't know about is some of the early Schilke mouthpieces, and those have been kind of the focus of my own collecting for a little while. So I don't have a huge collection, but I do have this very small case, which I'm about to share with you right now. So obviously this is a Schilke catalog. It's probably from the late 60s. But what we're going to look at today is, now unfortunately I don't have an original one of these, so I've had to print out some of my research. But we're going to talk about the early models of Schilke mouthpieces, and in particular the Alphanumeric mouthpieces. So these Alphanumeric mouthpieces were basically from kind of date pre-1963, I think. So allow me to explain. So instead of having the common numbers, for example a 14A4A or a 6A4A or a 11 or a 9, they had just alphanumeric. So you had a model K, J, H, the Llewellyn model, I can barely say that now, right? Model B, which you see here, apologize for the shadows there, model A, model S, model W, model V, and model R, and they basically were listed in the order of smallest to largest. So with the smallest being a model K, and the largest being a model R. Now there is another one that's actually not listed on this particular chart, and that is a model P, and I will show you that model in just a second. I actually have a model P right here in the case. So flipping that aside, here is some Schilke mouthpieces, a couple of other ones thrown in here, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about those too. So let me just straighten my case up a little bit. Okay, so what we have the top here. Now the cool thing, as I go through this, I'll explain a little bit about where I got some of these mouthpieces from, because basically I've got around 3 collections in this case that I purchased at one time or another, basically over the past 5 or 6 years. Now the coolest thing is I have, now if you've seen my Instagram accounts, you may have seen this lovely document before, and that is an original invoice from the 1960s that shows an original receipt from when our Schilke 184 West Washington Street, Chicago to Illinois, and there is the gentleman, the original owner of these mouthpieces. Now I didn't buy all of these mouthpieces. I bought the K versions here, so basically the K set, which included one screw room trumpet mouthpiece, R room with an S cup, and then some extra cups for the same. I believe I purchased some of these, and I think I got some of the H, and I'll go through those in a second. But you can see the original price. Oh, we've got a little bit of shadowing here, so I have to come from this side. The original price in 1960 for basically 8 pieces was $110, and he got a 40% discount, so it was $66, and then 65 cents postage, and then the total being $66.65. Now I want to just take a moment here. Now I didn't share this when I originally posted this on the site, but Mr. Edwin, I believe Nepper, so I pulled up his obituary because he is a very interesting gentleman who was born May 17th, 1925, and he actually passed away on April 29th, 2013. Now he spent his career as an educator in high schools, technical colleges, and he was also Dean of Business Technologies. But his musical career, this is from his obituary in a newspaper article. His musical career included being a member of the Navy Band, playing for USO shows, and being first trumpet chair in the Toledo Symphony. And he was a lifetime member of the Toledo Federation of Musicians, Wood County Teachers Association, and the Technical Teachers Association. And I believe he played, it's mentioned here, he played trumpet in the Owens Community College Concert Band for many years, basically right through most of his life. Yeah, so kind of interesting. He was also a pupil of the first trumpet of the Cleveland Orchestra, and as I said, he played principal trumpet for the Toledo Symphony, and played in the band at the Music Under the Stars series at the Toledo Zoo, and also played in big bands and other ensembles in the Toledo area. So that was Mr. Edwin Nepper. So pretty interesting. Awesome that I have this original receipt, and also pretty awesome the story behind it. So that retains as part of the collection. Unfortunately, I believe I bought these off eBay originally. I didn't get to purchase the whole set. I would have loved to have purchased the whole set and kept them all together, but unfortunately I could only get the second lot. So these are some of the mouthpieces from it. So it is a screw rim. And they have a little rim on the side here. Now I'll see if I can focus that up a little better. Maybe I'm too close to the lens here. Oh, there we go. So you can see a little K on the rim. And if you look at the mouthpiece, you've got Schilke B on the rim there. Schilke B, and then there's a little K on the top there. So it's basically to match up with the rim. And then going back to that, so sorry, I bought the K series. So one screw rim trumpet mouthpiece, R rim S cup, and this is basically to go with the K. And then you've got the again, this one's slightly different. See if I can get this focus out. I apologize, the camera takes a few seconds to focus there. So that's an R. With essentially, I believe, a K rim. It's got the little K symbol there on the side. Then we've got the S model, and the S model is described as a semi-flat rim, a definite cup that isn't more conical, funnel shaped than the average mouthpiece, used by many cornet players to get a big sound. So I guess this is kind of like a symphony style cup. And then I've got a J. So that was the second celloist, I believe. The description on the paper says provides maximum range, tone, and endurance, is popular with studio and dance players. You can see it's quite a shallow cup on this particular one. So those were all designed to go with this same rim here. So you can just screw the rim on. Goes on pretty easily. And then you have it, you can just quickly change those out. So that's the first collection. Now I picked up a few odds and ends over time. So this is an original B trumpet mouthpiece. The B, as says, described as a standard mouthpiece, slightly larger than average, provides a large tone, adapts well to cornet, good for intermediate players. So this is the, oh, wait a second, let's get this in focus. Stay with me. There we go. So that's a B cup. Now it's a one-piece cup. And you can see the rim on there kind of falls away a little bit. It's a little bit more rounded than I guess you would normally see on like a bark piece. And certainly if you put these two together and look at the way that the rim falls off, it's quite flat on this side, obviously, and then quite round it falls off on this side. And then we've got a P, which is not listed on the brochure, but it is indeed a P. And I believe this is the piccolo mouthpiece. So quite a flat, again, curved on there, but a very shallow mouthpiece. Looks like a slightly bigger throat, which is interesting, I guess, to relieve some of the pressure. So there's a P and a B, original one. Then I picked up basically a set of mouthpieces. Actually, let's talk about this one first. So this one here is a custom mouthpiece, and you can see it has Shilke on the side, and it has Bet, B-E-T-T-E, or Betty. I'm not sure which it is, but I believe this was from a pretty famous orchestral female player. Basically played in the 70s. Betty Eiler, I believe her last name is E-I-L-E-R, and I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly. So this is obviously a personalized piece. I'm not sure if this was hers originally or if this is just somebody ordered the same model. But it is an interesting piece nonetheless. And that actually came in a collection, which are basically these 4 pieces here plus those rim. Actually, you can't see the rims. Let's move this across a little. It's going to go out of focus for a sec. Okay, so now you see that plus these rims here. So this is a Schilke B, but this one's a little bit more interesting in the fact that it has 25 stamped on the throat and also has a 1172 stamped on there. If I can just get my camera to focus. There we go. So you can see the 1172 and the 25. 25 is the throat, 1172 is the back bore. This would be for an orchestral player. I know that because these 4 pieces came from a Canadian professional trumpet player by the name of Robert Grimm. I purchased these mouthpieces, I believe, a few years after he retired, but he played in he was a principal trumpet player for the Canadian Opera Company from 1992 to 2016 when he retired. So here's a C cup, which is not listed anywhere. These are more modern versions, which is interesting that they still use the BC kind of version. And we've got a 25 throat again, but the back bore says 75. And this mouthpiece, shank and cup is stamped 1, and it has a 25 throat and a 75 back bore. Now I believe it just says Shilke on it. Now I suspect that these are in fact Laskey versions of prior models. The reason I say that is if we look in here, I have the coveted top rims stamped 1CH, which is a copy of Herseth, basically Bark 1 Chicago rim. And we've got a 1 1/4 C. And this is clearly a Mount Vernon number 1 rim. These are all Laskey rims. And he talks about these in a video that I've seen. This one's actually unmarked, but I believe it's a copy of one of these. And if we move up a little bit, I've got some other interesting pieces right here. Now let's forget about those two. Those are Holtenheims, and they're only really there because they're kind of similar to some of these other pieces. And I'm missing one of these pieces, but I'm just going to talk about this one quickly. And that is in fact a Stork Custom, which doesn't belong in there. It's just being a placeholder, but as I say, here is Mr. Grimm's backbore cup. That's a 22 throat Schilke A, probably used for pick or cornet parts. And then these ones are really interesting. Not too many people would know about these. So unfortunately, I am missing the number one because I'm actually using that one myself for brass band currently. So it's in another pouch. But what we have right here is some mouthpieces from basically mid-1930s onwards. I can't date them exactly, but I know that they first came out in 1930s, late 1930s. And I found this obituary biography of Reynolds Schilke, and I forget the source, but definitely there. I found this on the internet. It describes Reynolds Schilke's career and some of the different things he did here. But these ones here are Lewelynn Personal Model mouthpieces that he actually, according to this, he decided to supplement the income of the widow of Llewellyn, by manufacturing and selling the mouthpieces known as the E.B. Lewelynn Personal Model, which eventually became the Schilke 9, and he and Mrs. Llewellyn share the income in some fashion from the sales. So you can see just stamped there on the rim, it has the E.B. Llewellyn, and it says Personal Model. So these are late 1930s pieces. And in fact, this is very reminiscent. Kind of reminds me of some of the Schilke blanks that come much later. But I was lucky to pick up a set. So this is just marked Personal Model. Here is actually a angled shank. And then I have in cornet a number 2, and there's also a number 1. Like I say, the number 1 I don't have with me right now. It's a little bit deeper than this one, and the rim is a little more forgiving than this rim. But I thought I'd show you those because they are Schilke mouthpieces. They were made by Schilke, probably by himself at the time. So if you ever wanted true Schilke mouthpieces, he manufactured and sold these, and it's so early in his career that they're pretty much guaranteed to be made by the man. So some interesting kind of history about mouthpieces here. So that's my entire collection, obviously minus the number 1, of Schilke early mouthpieces. I'd be curious, have you seen these before? And do you have some of them? What do you think of them? Now, I think that I'm collecting these because I think these have potential once people find out about them. These early ones, again, like I say, if you wanted something made by the man, these are very likely to be made by him other than factory workers. But again, I could be incorrect in that. Certainly the 1930s ones, less so. But these ones here, these are 1960s, maybe even earlier. And then obviously these are some of the Laskey versions over here. So yeah, what do you think? I hope you find this video interesting. Certainly something different that you probably wouldn't see every day. I'm so happy I can share this with you, especially with regarding where the collections came from. I love it when you have a story that's associated with the item. I think it gives it life and additional character, and certainly preserves some of the history. So let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed the video.